For anyone anywhere near Sarasota, a great place to visit and spend some gentling time is Selby Gardens. It's a beautiful place, but one finds it is much more than that.
At a music seminary, she became an accomplished pianist, but it was the family camping trips along the Ohio River that gave young Marie Minchell her love of nature, a passion that would last a lifetime. Marie's marriage in 1908 brought life to full bloom. Her husband was a wealthy oil tycoon. William Selby had discovered his own slice of the natural world, Sarasota, Florida.
Marie and William Selby visited Sarasota many times before they finally moved here in the early 20s. They were avid outdoors people, and William in particular liked to hunt and fish, and Sarasota was a great winter playground for him.
So on 7 acres bordering Sarasota Bay, the Selbys built a modest home to match their quiet lifestyle. It was the perfect spot for Marie Selby to take up gardening. She loved roses.
It looks very different than when Marie gardened here, primarily by the addition of many, many different gardens and different plants. The things that remain from her planting are some of the large trees, especially some of the big fig trees that we have on our property.
When Marie Selby died in 1971, she left her piece of paradise to the people of Sarasota. Since her death, this botanical legacy by the bay has become world famous, not for roses, but for epiphytes, those plants that grow on other plants but do not take sustenance from them. As director of horticulture, Mike McLaughlin fills with pride when he enters the tropical display house.
Think of it as a living library of plants. It's a botanical garden, which means the plants that we have here are part of a collection, a scientific collection. And the plants that we have here, we have data on. So when our researchers go out into the wild and collect, they not only bring back the specimens for us to grow and study here and display, but they bring back information about where that population was growing.
At Marie Selby Botanical Gardens, visitors can admire the world's largest scientific collection of orchids and bromeliads, more than 20,000 species.
And sometimes you have a rare opportunity to see something like the tulip orchid. This is Anguloa cloizii, that is a terrestrial orchid from the forests of Colombia and Venezuela. So we've had this plant since the 70s, since the very beginning of Selby Gardens, and it blooms very rarely. And visitors that come today have a chance to see this plant in full bloom.
The display changes every few weeks as plants come into bloom. The orchid is the largest family of flowering plants, nearly 22,000 species.
They're not all showy and glamorous like this one. Some are very diminutive. This is a pleurothallus from South America. Very small, but have all of the features of this flower here on this showy cattleya.
With their exquisite beauty, orchids are among the most popular plants in the world.
This is a Hydnophytum from Australia. This is another member of our epiphytic plant collection, and it is actually a member of the coffee family. And you'll notice it has some typical epiphyte structures, this big water storage organ here. It's actually a swollen stem, but you notice it has some holes in it. And this plant actually has a very interesting symbiotic relationship with a species of ants. And we've cut this plant in half so you can see the ready-made ant farm that's in here.
A walk through the tropical display house or a stroll around the grounds is a year-round adventure for plant lovers. Selby Gardens is a not-to-be-missed showplace. A view rarely observed by visitors is Selby's unseen garden. The herbarium is housed in the Center for Tropical Plant Science and Conservation. As he reviews a mounted specimen from South America, one of 90,000 dried plants in the Selby collection, Harry Luther is one of the world's foremost authorities on bromeliads.
Well, for this particular species, it tells you exactly how big it was, what it looked like generally, where it grew, elevation, habitat. Since we have live collections, people ask, why isn't that enough? Well, if I want to see what Ichmea manzaneraceana or cuculata looks like in bloom in January, it doesn't bloom in January.
But here in the herbarium, a scientist can study an example of a plant from 10 years ago or 100 years ago.
This documents biodiversity. In the future, it's very likely that a lot of these plants will not occur where they occur today or occurred 10 years ago. And it's a permanent record of what was growing where.
North America has more than 200 botanical gardens, but only one specializes in epiphytes. In a world marked by rapidly vanishing habitat, the value of Sarasota's Marie Selby Gardens, both seen and unseen, is beyond measure.
I think she would love Selby Gardens, and I wish she were here to see it. I think she'd appreciate that so many people come to this site to learn about nature and reconnect with nature.